Hello everyone, welcome to Jamaica 411. Thank you so much for being with me today. As Emily Shields on Hotline would say, you have choices. Yes, you have choices. You could have gone elsewhere, but you choose not to. You choose to be with me today. I agree with her and her sentiments. And for that, we are eternally grateful at Jamaica 411. To my subscribers, welcome back. Always nice to have you and reading your comments in the comment section. So guys, please keep it going. Keep the comments going. Yes, we had a lot, over 300 for the last video. I take it you find it most interesting and informative. And I'm very happy that that is the case if it is so. I know there are some persons who will be subscribing for the first time. I want to thank you for doing so. And of course, I'm going to ask everyone, please give the video a thumbs up from now on. Please give the video a thumbs up. And of course, share, because without the sharing, we can't get the message out. And we must get this particular message out and all other messages. Yes, very important. So I want to thank you all in advance for doing so. And of course, I don't forget my silent listeners. Yes, sir and madam, welcome. So, with those preliminaries out of the way, let's get down to business. What is the business of today? Well, you know, this ongoing saga at the Integrity Commission. From I was born, this is supposed to be an Integrity Commission, you know. But there seems to be all manner of questions, legitimate questions about the integrity of the Integrity Commission. And I suppose maybe the bar was set too high, and those who have been appointed and employed, maybe we're asking too much to expect them to live up to the expectations of this high bar that was set. But then again, that may have something to do with the persons and not so much the bar. In other words, so the Integrity Commission Act of 2017 lists the number of persons, 5 persons on the commission, and what formal qualifications they should have. So you have, first of all, the Auditor General, who is a permanent member. She's an ordinary member. Then it requires that 2 of the other 4 must be judges. Judges either from the Court of Appeal or the Supreme Court, and they have to be retired judges. And then the 3rd person or 4th person should be a senior retired public official with knowledge and expertise in area of finance, accounting, and public administration. And lastly, the other person should come from a non-governmental organization, so it's from the private sector. And it is the judges that are actually struggling the most. The law went on to say it is one of the 2 judges who must be the chairperson. And as I said before, it is the judges who are struggling. We had Panton and his misbehavior, in my view. The private sector demanded his resignation, and he said he's not resigning after what he did. Right? Got the 2 reports, one recommending that the Prime Minister should be charged for an allegation that he was complicit in some kind of conflict of interest regarding a company that was awarded a contract to do work in his constituency when he was a Minister of Education way back in 2008. That recommendation came from the Director of Investigation to the Commission, and the matter was referred to the Director of Corruption Prosecution, Keisha Prince Kameka. That was in October 2022. No specific areas under which the Prime Minister should be charged was set in the referral, and so Kameka had to do some research. So it took her until January 12th to complete her report and submit the report to the commission. That was the 12th of January. The report was sent to the Parliament. The report, the investigator's report, was sent to the Parliament. The report from the corruption prosecution saying that there's no basis on which to charge the Prime Minister, and she gave her reasons, that was held back. Anybody who is friendly and knows Justice Carol Beswick and Brian Winter and the other commissioners will be aware of what I'm talking about. But for the benefit of those two, unless they were not here, they were retired after all, so they may have been vacationing, or they must have gone on the North Pole or the South Pole and didn't know what was going on. Because I hear, according to Nationwide News Network, that Carol Beswick, according to them, was asking Greg Christie that he should stay on. So I'm not staying on, them are asking him to stay on. So apparently she's not aware. Because if she's aware of what he did and is asking him to stay on, what does that say about her? So I am going to give her the benefit of the doubt and say she didn't know. So please send this video to her and ask her to listen carefully to what it is that I am saying. And I will shortly put up the evidence so she can do her research herself. Good. The report recommending the prosecution was sent to the Parliament on the same day when the Commission received the report from Kameka that she is not going to prosecute the Prime Minister, and she gave her reasons. She said, when the investigator cautioned the Prime Minister and asked him about his role in this matter, he gave an explanation, and she felt that the duty now of the investigator was to debunk what the Prime Minister said. And if he was able to debunk it, then send the matter to her, but he wasn't able to debunk it. And she felt if she went to court with it, she was going to lose. Mrs. Beswick, you are a retired judge, the whole heap of donkey ages, and you are also a prosecutor, so you will know about how this type of thing work. Whether or not Kameka was correct, if she feels she can't win, that the other side is going to present arguments. In other words, she's anticipating what the other side would do. And knowing that she would lose, she decided not to take the risk. She could have gone, and tested it, which is what I suspect this removal of Kameka is all about. Somebody is trying to get that decision reversed and put the matter before the court. Not because they think that they're going to win, but for political reasons. Because if they ever manage to do that, it will be hell and powder house. Because the Labour Party now would be in serious trouble when the election is called. Are you understanding what is happening, Mrs. Beswick? You will say, what evidence do we have of that? I will come to that. I will come to that. Now, so this is where we are. The Parliament naturally, because that's how they are, dubious character we know they have, but for political reasons, and they know that this thing is a bombshell, they decide to hold on upon this report, and that was what showed up what it was that Panton did more than anything else. It was the fact that they delayed it for more than 1 month. Finally, they couldn't delay it anymore. I don't know what happened. They then went and laid it before the House. Yes. They went and they tabled it in the Parliament. And when the news got out, all hell broke loose. As you can well imagine, Justice Beswick, you've lived longer than me, and you know that such a thing has never happened in the history of Jamaica. The private sector and all persons were demanding that the Prime Minister step down, not because he's guilty, because remember, Politics is more about perception than it is about facts. So it's not because he's guilty. It is because of the perception that he's corrupt why they wanted him to step down. Reuters, Justice Beswick, that international body of media, that media house that has links in every country in the world, made a report on it. Yes, which means it gone abroad, or what them people call on social media viral. And would you believe, Mrs. Beswick, that the very next day, I believe, as a matter of fact, it was tabled on the Tuesday, and I recall it was a Thursday, right? That Greg Christie, the same Greg Christie that you think is a man of integrity and he should stay there because you believe that he's a man that serves the public interest. You clearly don't know anything about him, Mrs. Beswick. And him wrote a letter to the Parliament when he was submitting the prosecutor's report, Kameka's report, that she sees no reason for prosecuting, and gave her reasons. You can imagine how the people am shame, especially the private sector. And when they realized what Panton did, they demanded that he should step down. And you know what him said? I am not stepping down. No. He said, this judge said that there is nothing in the law that said that he had to submit both reports at the same time. He is not an idiot, Justice Beswick. And therefore, and him not a little boy, him not young, you can't say, all right, he make a little mistake, I'm new to this thing. No, he knew damn well what he was doing. Pardon my language. And that was what he did. How we know that it was deliberate, Mrs. Beswick? Because Greg Christie wrote in the report, first of all, reminding the parliamentarians that they had submitted, that is the Integrity Commission, had submitted for tabling the investigator's report on the 12th of January. And now the chairman, Justice Panton, has given him instructions that he can now release the report from the prosecutor. I am going to show it on the screen. Look at the screen, you see it. Pause the video, Mrs. Beswick, and read it. So we can say, okay, so Greg Christie got instruction from his boss and he carried out his instruction. And we now blame him too much because he was just following the instruction of the boss. I want you to listen to me, Mrs. Beswick. The very night after Greg Christie sent that letter and submitted the prosecutor's report, that very night, 10:30 p.m., you know what he did? He went and he retweeted what it was that Reuters had said, that the Prime Minister of Jamaica is being investigated for corruption charges. He retweeted it. And this is how we know, Justice Beswick, that Greg Christie is prepared to do things that are not in the public interest. Would you agree with me, first of all, Mrs. Beswick, that what Greg Christie did was not in the public interest? For him to know that the prosecutor recommended no prosecution, or she in her ruling, she said there should be no prosecution, and then him went in at the night and retweeted what Reuters had said. Him not say it, he retweeted it without comment. And when the private sector and other people saw it, they demanded that he should resign. You know what him said, Mrs. Beswick? Say, no, resign. As a consequence of that, and listen, I want you to listen to me, because you may say, well, there is no proof. Well, you don't need no proof, because when the Integrity Commission was set up and they hear how it was set up, Jamaica went up several notches on the Transparency International Corruption Perception Index. And when them evaluated us after, it went down. There is nothing else that happened in this country, Mrs. Beswick. Nothing else more corrupt than it used to be, except the Integrity Commission. You guys are letting down the side. When those people at Transparency International saw the doings of a judge and the executive director against the prime minister of the country, even if it was a layperson, and it got the press and they noticed it, what they did, and them did not resign, that is telling them that that body is corrupt, or at any rate has been corrupted. So I want you to think about it some more, Justice Beswick. Being a judge, and make the judgment call as whether or not you think that Greg Christie ought to stay on as you or them claim that you were asking him to do. It is more than that. I want you to think about this, Mrs. Beswick. You are the chairperson, right, of the Integrity Commission. I want you to understand, and I'm sure you do, you're older than me, so you're brighter than me, for sure. I'm sure of that body is very important to this country. It can affect the investments that are done in this country. That's going to employ your brothers and sisters, Mrs. Beswick. So when you took this job, it's a hell of a job you took. And I am sure you have every intention in this world to do a great job. And we are going to help you to do it. Worst of all, you're a lady. You're a woman. And sometimes the man them do for them scratch back business and scratch this business. We know of them something there. So we are going to help you to do a damn good job. So when you get criticism, first of all, I'll say this to you. When you get criticism from parliamentarians, just understand where they are coming from. Don't be rushed by what they are saying. Don't be harsh in your comments. Just respond it and mildly, as if you understand and empathize with them. Is politics this? So whatever you do, you have to be very careful. Kameka was there making decision against PNP people too. And some PNP people might have been a little annoyed, but at the same time, they can't say she was unfair. Are you following me? All you have to do is do your thing the way in which you know it should be done, right? And get it right. I am going to say this to you now, Mrs. Beswick, because I brought up that incident for a reason. And I want you to listen to me very carefully. There is a man in the People's National Party called Peter Bunting. He is one of the most dangerous politicians this country has ever seen. You think Saga was dangerous? If that is your opinion, Saga is a baby compared to this man. The only good fortune that we have, Mrs. Beswick, is that he's a man that will use his money, but will not, as far as we know, resort to the hard criminal act of committing murder. But that is perhaps because he has not yet found himself in that position where he could not work his way out of it. That is not his first choice. Now, Peter Bunting is a man who read and studied a book called Art of War by Sun Tzu, a Chinese general. Then he studied a book called The Prince by a man by Niccolo Machiavelli. I am telling you this, Mrs. Beswick, so that when you find a little time, see if you can get hold of those two books and read, because when you read, you will understand how the mind of that man works. That man is public enemy number one. That man, when he wanted to take over the People's National Party, challenged the leader 1 year before the election, lost, but was not satisfied with the loss. He did not accept it, even though he pretended. So he set up a WhatsApp group, and they stood there and they plotted how they are going to take over the People's National Party. And when it looked like, every time it looked like the party is going somewhere, they make sure the party look divided. You know what that is we're talking about? That's sabotage. And even on election day, they were not satisfied to take any chance, not like they did in 2016 when it's them two caused the party to lose the election deliberately because he wanted to take over, but he never wanted to wait. So on election day, instead of working to help the People's National Party win the election, they were hoping and praying, but that was not all. They were proactive in getting certain candidates that supported who are PNP. We call them PNP. They are the ones who support Dr. Peter Phillips and Portia and the real PNP. Understand what I'm saying? Yes, because they call themselves risers. And they made sure that certain candidates lose them seat. In the process, while they were sabotaging others, the people on the ground, the comrades, never liked what they were doing, so them stay home and make them lose the seat. And that's how them ended up out of power, and the PNP ended up losing so badly. $650 million was what Peter Bunting spent in that election campaign to unseat Dr. Peter Phillips. And to date, we in the resistance understand they have spent $1.6 billion. You think that they are going to give up this thing so easy? They're not going to allow their money to go down the drain if they can help it. That is what is motivating them, and the power that they are attempting to acquire by any means necessary. So you're wondering, what am I telling you all of that for? I am telling you all of that to say to you this. What happened to Prince-Kamika? You as a chairperson know more than anybody else what happened. Why it is that the commission changed its position, because it is unlikely that you would have made a decision so late to change her if you never had the intention to keep her in the first place. So something happened. And I'm going to venture a few guesses, and you tell me if I'm right or I'm wrong. Because we know Peter Bunting so well, we believe that it was him that was a part of this. If you and the other commissioners, or some number of you, the majority, decide that you're not going to go ahead with Prince-Kamika, and it was something that came to your attention, that could not have been done inside of the Integrity Commission. It could not have been the Integrity Commission who would have looked into her background. Somebody went and dug up the information that you have. I want you to think about it, If I am right that you got some information, somebody dug it up. Why? Why? Well, you may say it don't matter, because it may be of such a nature that if it came out, it could cause problem for you guys. Perhaps. I want you to listen to me now. Right? You know what it is that the law says. If the directors complete their term in office and then decide to leave, then it is you as commissioners who would then determine who would be the next director. You following me? The objective, it was that they needed to get Prince-Kamika out of that seat, because they would have come to the conclusion that there is no way they can bring any conviction against Wholeness as long as she's in the position. But that is not their objective. They don't intend to bring anything else. Do you know what their objective is? Their objective is to get somebody new in that position who would then go back and review what it was that Prince-Kamika determined and reverse it. They have no interest in whether or not Wholeness is guilty. The only thing they're interested in is for the letter to come from the Integrity Commission saying that, having reviewed the decision that was made by Prince-Kamika not to prosecute, the new person that is there, the acting Director of Corruption Prosecution, has reviewed her ruling and made the decision to reverse it. The only thing they're interested in is for that letter to come out and the matter to be put before the court. They don't care whether or not the Integrity Commission lose the case. They only need for the public to know that Wholeness is now going to be prosecuted, and then the hullabaloo will start. And there will be demands for him to resign. Of course, he's not going to resign, right? There is no time to recover. The election is just about 5 months away. Are you understanding me? But you don't accept it. Let me put to you the scenario, because you're going to say, but how would they know? But then that is the art of manipulation. Justice Beswick. I am going to need to make a little calculation now. The NNN reported that Greg Christie, in a letter to the Commission, November 14, I believe, 2024, indicated that he will not be requesting reappointment. When I did the calculation, being that his time in office is going to expire on May 18, I did the calculation. He wrote that letter 6 months before. I am therefore going to draw the conclusion, because it's not in the law and I'm not aware that there are any regulations supporting the law, that the Commission may have indicated to its members, especially directors, that if you intend to request reappointment, do so 6 months before, so that you guys will have time to find a replacement. Replacements for those persons who are not seeking re-election. And this is how we figure that it was always the Commission's intention to retain the services of Prince-Kamika. So she would have applied for reappointment. Now, if it was the intention of the Commission not to reappoint or recommend for reappointment Prince-Kamika, they would have told her at that time that they will not, they don't intend to recommend her to the GG to be reappointed. They would have done it at that time. But if they had, it would have given you guys the time to get somebody else. And by the time her stint was up on the 24th of March, you would have had somebody else in place. But hear this. If that was so, it would be very difficult to bring about the machinations which I'm describing to you of getting the decision overturned. They would have had very little control about who you employ. So we at least can surmise that Bunting has nobody on the Commission that he can rely on. So the opportunity presented itself. You had every intention to keep her, and that presented an opportunity. Read The Art of War, and you will see where they speak about the commander in the field using the every opportunity that the enemy offered to their advantage. And they were able to create an opportunity out of what would have been seen to be adversity. Now, Justice Beswick, I want you to listen very carefully now to what it is I'm about to say. I need you to follow me closely because you may have to do some investigation on your own. They would have worked out that if they could get Prince-Kamika out of that seat, a wonderful opportunity would turn up for them to be able to open either or both of those matters against Andrew Holness, and in the process, win the next general election. What did they do? I want you to turn your attention, Justice Beswick, to the Integrity Commission Act of 2017. So we are looking here now at Section 30, subsection 8 of the Integrity Commission Act of 2017. And this is what it says. If a vacancy arises in the position of director, it never said how. If there's a vacancy, the commission may, on the recommendation of the executive director, appoint any person to act in the place of the director for such period not exceeding 3 months, and thereafter an appointment shall be made in the same manner as would be required in relation to the appointment of a director in accordance with subsection 4 and 5. Did you get it? It was essential for them to carry out their agenda. This is what we believe is going on. It is essential that you in the commission did not make that appointment in the period that they need to have the case reopened. When the vacancy was created, when they went and dug up, it was not inside the commission because you guys have a strict protocol. If they had used public resources in order to carry out an investigation into the member of staff, right? In this case, Kameka, then it would have to show up somewhere. They could not have carried out that investigation inside of the commission. Somebody else had to do it, and it had to be done outside. They wanted Kameka out of the way, but they did not want you to be able to replace her because they don't have any links on the board. No, it was Greg Christie, Justice Beswick, that they wanted to select the person and recommend that person to you, and look at what he did. So, maybe I'm talking foolishness. Well, all right. You are a judge, and therefore you have an extremely inquisitive mind. A brilliant one too, because judges work on easy work. It requires a lot of brain work, and we know your brain is working and you cannot help it, Justice Beswick. So, here is what I am going to say to you now. First of all, the decision that was taken by the commission. Information was brought to the commission. If it was not you who brought the information, somebody else did. We know that Greg Christie sits on the commission with you guys. And this we know, Justice Beswick, because Section 29, subsection 3 of the Integrity Commission Act 2017 tells us so. And let me read it to remind us all. So, Section 29, subsection 3 says, the executive director, who is Greg Christie, shall attend the meetings of the commission unless the commission otherwise directs, but shall not have a vote at any meetings of the commission. So Greg Christie, being the executive director, he attends the meetings of the commission unless you ask him not to attend. You want to talk to your fellow commissioners about something among the lot of you, and you don't want him to be there, you will ask him not to attend. Otherwise, he is to attend your meetings. So now that we've established these facts, let us now return to the point that I was making. Information was brought to the attention of you and the other commissioners concerning Keisha Prince Kameka. Question 1. How was that information conveyed to you? The only mechanism that I know of, according to the law, is through the executive director. He is the paper pusher. He takes the information from others below him or on the same level as him, and he passes them on to you. So that information would have come through Greg Christie. True or false? Secondly, there is no way Greg Christie could have taken this information from outside of the commission, because you would have quizzed him. Where did you get this information from? No, the information had to come through the proper channel. And what is a proper channel? It had to come through the Director of Information and Complaints. True or false? So, Bunting and his cronies would have sent the information that they found to the Director of Information and Complaints, and he is duty bound to pass that information on to you for investigation or for you to do whatever it is you think best. And the evidence would have come with it. True or false? And if it was, you would have done preliminary checks. And if it is true that you never said anything to Kameka about it, then the evidence must be very strong. Is that true? Yes. Now, let us now look at something here, because you may say it doesn't matter. If the person is found wanting in some ways that would damage the reputation of the commission, it doesn't matter how the information comes to you. That may be so, but you need to understand what is at play. Now that you have taken the decision that Keisha Prince Kameka, her tenure, when it's over, as it was, she would not be reappointed, that now leaves Greg Christie a free hand to act under the law and select the next person who is going to be there for 90 days. He recommended that person to you. That's what the law says. And I am quite sure, Justice Beswick, neither you nor any of the commissioners are lawbreakers. But let us for the moment examine what may be Greg Christie's last act before he demits office May 18. Now there is a vacancy in one of the director's position, and so he went seeking to recommend someone to you to act in the position as the Director of Corruption Prosecution. And what did he do? He went and somehow, coincidentally, found somebody who is on very friendly terms with the General Secretary of the People's National Party for 20 years. Now you may say, so what? That don't mean the person will do anything underhand or out of the way. That is true. That is very true. Perhaps the young fellow is an excellent chap. But at the same time, do you want to take that risk? We are contending that this is part of a plot to enable Peter Bunting and those risers to win the next general elections. Their only hope is to get Andrew Holness charged for a criminal offense, and then them know they are smooth sailing. Again, I ask you the question, Justice Beswick, can you afford to take the risk? The risk that I am right and we in the resistance is correct, that Peter Bunting and Mark Golding and his cronies in the Rise camp are the ones who are behind all of what is taking place, and they're doing it because they see an opportunity in which they can win the general election by getting those decisions of Kameka reversed. It was never going to happen, or it would have been extremely difficult to happen, if you were the one selecting the candidate to replace her. If you had made that decision earlier to replace her, that's what would have happened, but you didn't. And so they saw a way in which they can get their man Friday in the position to reopen the case. We have already established for you that Greg Christie is not a man of integrity. Not at all, and I'm sure he would not take offense to me saying so, because for him to do what he did, he must have at least admit to himself that it was not right. He did a very wrong thing. And he can't come and talk about passing the blame on to the commission. Right? He and Panton did it. That's what they did. Sully a man's reputation and risk the reputation of the country in order to do what they did. For what purpose? You can ask him, he might tell you. It's either for revenge because of how Holness allowed his MPs to be harassing them, or it's for other reasons. Whatever it is, it was not right. And therefore, you cannot take any recommendation from Greg Christie. You cannot afford that risk. His action was disgraceful. He sought to pass the blame on others and took no responsibility. And even he may have even lied, because in the letter he clearly stated that it was Panton that gave him the instruction, and Panton alone, to submit Kameka's report to the Parliament on the 15th of February. And then when he was in the Parliament, he sought to give the impression that it was the Commission who had given him the instruction. Was that true? He also refused to resign and claimed that the retweet was just a normal retweeting, which cannot be true, because he was retweeting something that was a damn lie. Pardon my language. This man should never have remained in that position. The parliamentarians should have written to the Governor General and asked him to intervene and convene a commission of inquiry into the activities of the Integrity Commission, because it's not just that alone, it has other problems. Why is it that they've only examined 2,200 and something of the 165,000 statutory declarations they have received in 8 years? Does that make any sense when the law requires that they should examine all of them within the year in which they received them? There needs to be an inquiry. Now, I agree that this is a very big pill to swallow. Very big pill indeed. So here is what I recommend, Justice Beswick. Ask a few questions of yourself and perhaps others. And I would go to the Auditor General. Perhaps it may be the only one you can trust. You may feel you can't trust your brother, Hibbert. Yes. But I would put my trust in the Auditor General that whatever it is you ask, you will not repeat it. Now, I would like you to prove me wrong or prove me right. The only way that can be done is to ask some very important questions. Question number 1. Was Christie present at the wedding of Ronif Lawrence? That's the first question. If yes, was he aware that Dayton Campbell and he were best friends? Dayton Campbell is a former member of parliament and his best friend. I am sure he would have given a speech. As a matter of fact, as you can see in this photograph, Dayton Campbell and the man who is second to the left, they are wearing the same suit. And so the question is, was he the best man, or what was his role in that wedding? Was Christie aware of it? That's the first question. Second question, when you gave instruction to Christie to speak to Kameka, did you ask him to ask her for an explanation? Did you ask him to convene a hearing so that you can hear her side of the story? Did you do that? And if you did he return to you and tell you what was the result of that interview? Because Nationwide News Network is reporting that she was never told why you're not recommending her for reappointment. Next question. If I am wrong, that it had nothing whatsoever to do with any report that you got about anything at all negative about her, then the only other legitimate reason left for you not to reappoint her or recommend her for reappointment is her performance. Was she given a performance rating? I do believe so. I believe you evaluate them because Panton in 2023, when he was under pressure, made reference to the high grade that the commission was giving to him. So, did you tell her that her performance was subpar and therefore you may have to let her go? Was that what happened? And if that was the case, why would you have taken so long to come to that decision? You would have decided that you were going to keep her, and then all of a sudden you decide not to keep her. And therefore that could never be the reason. And therefore I am convinced that I am correct. You got a report. What, though, is the source of that report? And what is the motivation? Yes, if the report is right, then you would need to remove her if that is the case. But at the same time, it is not wise to take any recommendation from Greg Christie, especially in circumstances where he's selecting somebody who is affiliated to a high-ranking member in the Rise camp. One of Bunting's close associate is him go take and put in a Kameka's position. And now he's now in a position, if his friend asks him to, or if it turns out that he's a PNP under the quiet and out to get wholeness as well, to help the party to win the election. We don't know these things. Are you prepared to take that risk? The hijacking of the Integrity Commission, and already those alligators that were talking to Nationwide News Network were talking as if the organization is corrupt. And them inside there. And all time people say when alligator go river bottom and come tell us a shark down there, you must believe. Far be it for me to be telling you or giving you advice. But I would suggest that you don't take that risk. Because now that it's out in the public and my subscribers, all 10, 15 or 20,000 of them will be sharing this all over the place from one end of Jamaica to the next. And everybody will now know, right, that there is a strong possibility that what happened to Kameka is politically orchestrated by the risers. And you may not want to believe that Greg Christie is involved. It is very possible, believe it or not, that he may not be involved at all. because Bunting is cunning. He could easily have sent somebody where him know that Greg Christie hung out to give him a chat and make friends with him. And Greg Christie may have said something that don't mean nothing to him but mean something to them. Like, for example, he may have done something as simple as praise Ranif to somebody who said, I have somebody work inside, you have a good friend. Yeah, what's his name? Ranif Lawrence, you know him? Yes, man. Boy, such and such, and him find a way to get the information out of Greg Christie. Greg Christie would not necessarily have known, because that is how Bunting is. He's very slick. He's an excellent manipulator. Fool, but very good at manipulation. And once they can discover from Greg Christie that the guy is good enough to replace Kameka, or they may have discovered that he was next in line. He may have been her deputy. It reminds me of the movie The Godfather. You remember that movie? When Don Corleone went to meet with the mafia, the ones that wanted to bring drugs into the United States, they set it up nicely. They spoke about their whole heap of money, and the hot-headed son was there. So they were talking how much money the whole of them can earn and how they would split the money. And the hot-headed son turned to his father and said, "But Pops!" And the father shut him up. If I remember right, he shot him a box or two. Never do that again. Never contradict him in public. And because he did it, the mafia family realized that Don Corleone is the one in the way. If they get rid of him, they can do business with his son. And they tried to kill him and fail. So the idea that Greg Christie could well be innocent is by no means far-fetched. And he was manipulated to give information, not information that he cannot give, but information that is useful. And having got that information, they went to work to make sure they find something, manufacture something, anything they needed to do to get rid of Kameka, knowing that it would have been Ranif who would have been next in line. It is as simple as that. And so when Greg Christie put forward the young fellow and recommended him to you, he may well have done it without knowing that what he was doing is recommending a riser to be in that position. We have to be fair and we have to look at the possibilities because we don't know which one is true. Are you following me, Justice Beswick? Yes. Well, thank you very much for listening to me, and congratulations on your appointment. Good luck. You're going to need it. Anyway, folks, thank you so much for joining me, for sharing, liking, subscribing, and leaving your comments in the comments section. Until next time, take very good care of yourselves and walk good.